Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show. You're listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come each week for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Midlife with Courage. I'm Kim Benoit, your host, and I'm so happy to have you here. I'm also very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Gail Showalter. Welcome to the podcast, Gail.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we are going to jump into your story here in a minute, but first, tell the listeners a little bit more about you, where you are in the world, and what you do.
Well, in Southeast Texas, I'm known as the old bird with feathers of wisdom for women and a soft spot for single moms. I was a single mom for 16 years, raising three little kids. It was a tough road.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I have a passion for single mothers still because I know what it's like to be the single head of household
Mm.
and to be responsible for all the things that it takes to raise those kids. Now, I had some help. I will confess that I did. But the women I work with, and they have worked with now since 2007, those women, it's rough. And there are over 10 million single moms in the United States.
Wow.
Yes. And one third of them live in poverty. And it's easy for everybody to say, well, they brought it on themselves. You know what? Not necessarily.
Mm.
No, I don't like that judgment and I don't like that stigma. So I am trying to explain to people that the hardest working women I have met in my many years now are Black mothers trying
Mm.
to raise Black sons in our culture today. It is
Yeah.
a rough time. And we would think by now it wouldn't be, but it
Mm.
still is. And yes, I have learned that the one thing they need is education. They need some sort of a certificate or a degree to be employed, to survive, to make their life thrive, their children be okay.
Mhm.
Uh, I know your podcast is about midlife. Well, at midlife, I went back to school with three little children
Love
and
it.
I had to go to another city to do it. So I'll tell that story later. But yeah, I have loved these women that I have met working, and they're not young women. And one, and I'm thinking of in particular, is a grandmother. They have had tough times
Yeah.
and they're not on the system. They're not on food stamps. They don't want to be that way. They want to be independent, but we haven't created a world that makes that easy for them.
Mm.
And so I'm very passionate about motivating these women at midlife, sometimes a little younger, to get out there and be their best self because they can do it. And I'm telling you, it is amazing what these women I know have done.
I bet you have a ton of stories. Let's start with you sharing a time in your life when you felt courageous or you showed courage. And we were kind of talking earlier, you probably have a lot of those.
I do. I have, at my age, I have quite a few stories. But after a really difficult divorce, it took over a year just to sort it through. It was really traumatic for me,
Mhm.
unexpected, and there are a lot of women like that. At the time, I thought I was the only one, but after going through that, I began teaching. I had a teaching certificate. Thank goodness to my daddy who said, "You will get a teaching certificate." And so I got a job and I was working, but I knew if I was going to increase my pay, the only way to do that, at least in Texas, and I think in other states as well, is to get another degree, a higher level degree.
Mhm.
You do that, it bumps your salary up, which bumps your retirement up. So I decided that I was going to go back to college and get a master's. And I began to research colleges. And I have a kind of a story here, but I decided to go to the University of Texas in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you Longhorns.
Hook 'em horns or whatever they say.
Oh, yeah. And so the irony was that year they had a grant and they had a program for returning the older students. You know how old you had to be an older student?
I'm afraid to
20,
ask.
yeah, 23.
Oh my gosh.
And I was a lot older than that. So they made it possible. They helped me find childcare. And I did it one step at a time. And that was my first publication, Baby Steps to College. It is quite a long story, and I think it's on my website that can be downloaded. It's in the book, of course, but I shifted my thinking. I shifted thinking, I can do this. Now, when I look back at what I did, I'm thinking, how did I do that? But I had three little kids with me. I moved to Austin. It took 3 years, 3 summers to do. And I mean, I had to leave immediately after school was out and come back the day that school started and have three kids in tow. And one summer, my son had ruptured appendix. He nearly died before we left. It was
Oh
just,
no.
yeah, there was a lot of trauma involved.
Hmm.
One of my kids was playing and he ran a spike, a big wooden spike through his foot. So we spent the night
Oh,
at Breckenridge emergency room, and everybody that knows Austin knows you don't want to go to Breckenridge emergency room in the middle of the night.
oh no.
So
Oh.
there was a lot going on. But the reason I tell this story is I think your listeners may be trying to decide what to do with themselves.
Hmm.
Some of those women are capable of doing a lot. And even if you're in your 40s, you can still shift your life. You can still start something new. And
Hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed that adventure. It was not easy, but it was exciting. And it gave me back a sense of confidence that I had lost when my marriage fell apart.
Oh.
And I know there are a lot of women in their 40s that get divorced or lose their husbands to death, maybe, and they have to start over
Hmm.
and they have to recreate themselves and their lives because a lot of times in a marriage, even in a love relationship, you change who you are. You change yourself. And I'm a personality specialist. I studied personalities and I do a lot with that. And I really believe there's some value in studying and becoming self aware. But
Hmm.
I also tell moms if you're getting out of a relationship, whether it's through divorce or any other way, even if you're having to leave for because of abuse, you need to do a full autopsy on that previous relationship.
As much as you probably don't want to.
No, autopsies aren't pleasant.
No.
You need to figure out what was going right and what was going wrong. But don't put all the blame on yourself. It could be the other person. The other person could be, and I was studying narcissism. There's some great, great podcasts on that these days.
Hmm.
And so you could be in all kinds of situations that are not healthy, but you don't want to get into another one like that. I've seen
Right.
a lot of women do that in midlife. They get out of the relationship and they think, okay, I'm fine. But the next relationship is just almost the same dynamics of the first relation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the reason for that, but maybe one of the reasons is that it's familiar and it's hard to change and grow.
Mm,
And maybe they kind of think, well, or they don't even think it. It just kind of happens, I guess, maybe.
I think it does. I think it does. And
Yeah.
you're right, change is hard.
Yeah.
Growth is not easy. When you look at the nature around you, what happens to the chick he has to do to get out of that egg.
Yeah.
And the seed has to break open to grow.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to be uncomfortable.
Right. So going back to the single mom aspect of it, I've had the blessing to be married for almost 37 years now, and we raised two kids. And so I don't know what it's like to be a single mom. I just can't because I never had to do it, but I can empathize. And I've always said I give single moms so much credit. How do you just keep going? I just can't. if my kids were sick and I had to be somewhere, I had somebody else that can, oh, you're going to watch the kids or you're going to do this or help me out. How is it to be the only person there?
Oh, well, the moms who are listening that are single know, they know how it is.
Yeah.
The thing that I really encourage is be willing to ask for help. There is
Mhm.
nothing wrong with asking for help. And when you ask, you'll be surprised that people that are willing to help you.
Mhm.
It may not be a relative, it may be a friend. I had a friend, we swapped out a lot with our kids,
Mhm.
and she was great about it. We had kids the same age, and so she would take mine, I would take hers whenever things were needed in that way. But be willing to do that. Sometimes you may have to join a group in order to have those kinds of friends. It
Mhm.
may be a church group, it may be a book group, it could be anything, people that you play tennis with, people that are in clubs with. Just be willing to show your vulnerability. Most
Mhm.
single moms have a sense of, I've got to prove something. I've got to prove I can do this. I've got to look like I'm handling this.
Sure.
I used to tell people, just because you see a single mom, maybe she's dressed and she has her makeup on and her kids are dressed, don't kid yourself. Behind all of that is a hard, hard life.
Mhm.
And there are women who are handling it okay. But you
Mhm.
know what? Most of those women have an education. They have some sort of a degree or some sort of certification that gives them the opportunity to earn a good living.
Mhm.
That after many years of working with moms, let's see, from 2007 to 2015, I realized the single common thread among the moms that were doing well was the women who had an occupation, an official certificate, or a degree. And I'm not one of these people that says everybody has to have a college degree. I have three kids, none of them have college degrees, but
Yeah.
they're doing fine.
Mhm.
I mean, they were taught an extremely strong work ethic. But the thing is, single women, I'm sorry that it's this way, but single women in our world today need this. And if you're in your midlife and you think, it's too late for me, it is not too late.
No, it is not.
It is not. You can get that certificate. And even if you do, if you're working and you do it online at night, I've seen women do that.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
can do that. There are lots of ways now that we didn't have back then to get degrees or to earn certificates of some sort.
Mhm.
I have one single mom. She has a little farm and she makes soap, goat soap, and she
Ah.
teaches little classes. And she's a coach and she's good at it.
Ah.
She's her own independent person
Sure.
without a degree, but she's an exception to the rule.
Yeah. I think too, it's hard. You mentioned earlier about change and growth. We talked about that. And when you're in this situation, no matter how you got to be a single mom, there's you really have to find that confidence within yourself, like you mentioned earlier. How can women do that? And how do they get to the point where, you know what, I need a degree, I need a certificate, I need that? How do they get to that point?
The first thing I tell women is gather information. Gathering information nowadays is easy. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it's just at your fingertips, really, literally, but it doesn't cost you anything.
Mm.
Before you make any kind of decision, whether it's, buying a car or whatever, you have to gather information. Don't act impulsively. And so you say, well, I'm very interested in teaching. I like children. Well, research what you need to do. I don't know how it is in other states, but I do know that teaching certificates have changed a great deal in the country.
Mhm.
You can take a test sometimes, maybe mathematically, you can take a test and you can be certified to teach math. But you have to do the homework. You have
Mhm.
to look into it and gather the information. Now, that in itself, because knowledge is power, that in itself will give you some confidence. You know something that you didn't know before you gathered the information.
Hmm.
And that helps you to make decisions. It will also close doors. You may say, well, I don't think I can do that. What if I do this other thing?
Hmm.
Or maybe I'm really good at baking. Maybe I could start baking something and selling it. I had a friend, she was not a single mom at the time, but she started making her own dog treats. And she got a
Um,
big oven finally and did it. And you know what? They were selling them at the hardware stores.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. She just jumped out there with a leap of faith and said, I can do this. And she did it.
And she did.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like if you can raise kids on your own, you can pretty much do anything.
Isn't that the truth?
For sure. For sure.
Well, you manage money, you manage a budget, you manage groceries and food, you manage children,
Hmm.
you manage your home, and you manage your job. Oh my goodness. There's just
Yeah.
so much you can do. So,
Yeah. And as someone who's went from being a nurse to a business person, I feel like single moms who've gone through all those things have it's kind of a unique skill set because they've done all that. Business is hard. It's hard to start your own business no matter what it is. And do you find that they're, I don't know, I don't want to say better set up for that, but I bet they do well.
well, now setting up a business, that's different for different people.
Yeah.
Women would have a knack for that. Some women don't.
Yeah.
Some women do better working for someone. They go there, do their simple job, and they come home and take care of their kids.
Sure.
Yeah. So you need to kind of, here again, gather information,
Gathering
look at the
information.
whole picture, look at the picture of yourself. Another thing that I do that is very valuable is personality studies.
Hmm.
You need to look at yourself and your skills. What is your skill set? Are you an outgoing person? Are you an introverted person? And that will help you deciding which avenue you should take or not. And
Hmm.
I do have a whole chapter on this too,
Yeah.
but I'm very fond of personality studies. I usually follow the personality profile called Wired That Way by Florence Littauer and her daughter,
Hmm.
Marie, whom I studied with. But I also do the Enneagram, which is much more in depth. Now, either one of those should help you decide what avenue you can take and what would work for you. Because I remember one Christmas, my mom gave me one of those tests where you go to somebody and they test you to see what you would be good at.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But that's kind of expensive, and I'm not sure always how accurate it is. But I think if you study personalities even a little, you will start to realize, hey, I can do this, but I better not try to do that
Yeah.
based on your own nature. Now, you said you were a nurse. There is no way in the world I could be a nurse. I'm not even good when somebody in the family gets sick.
Oh no.
But I have a daughter-in-law that's a nurse.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I'm glad we have her in the family because I call her,
I'm sure you do.
But then,
Yeah.
there are things that you can do and things you can't do.
Yeah.
And you become aware of that. As you get older, you become more aware of that
Hmm.
based on experience. And so I suggest looking into that as a way of deciding where you're going to go with your life from here
Yeah.
on. You can get to be midlife and still not know yourself very well.
That's an excellent point because there might be things in your midlife that you like better now that you wouldn't have thought of doing, years ago. But what I was thinking, I'm a big advocate of what do you love to do? What lights you up? What are you passionate about?
What is your bliss?
Yes. So how can that fit into all of this?
A lot of times it can.
Hmm.
I was an art teacher. I loved art. One Christmas, I mean, I was really short on money. I painted, this was back when they did this. I painted t-shirts, wet shirts, and sold them. And
Ah,
I got commissions for this. And it wasn't bad. I was pretty good at it.
yeah.
It's not like you can do a lot of that. I paint pots and put plants in them, and sold those.
Mhm.
Okay. So I have a list that, goes through a lot of things that can trigger what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you love pets? Can you walk pets? Some people need a pet walker, you know,
Sure.
and some of them are not going to be lucrative life, full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing can sometimes lead to another thing. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on taking baby steps. So I would think about all the things that you enjoy doing. I enjoy sewing. You can certainly do some things there and make money, whether it's altering clothes or
Mm-hmm.
making clothes and selling clothes, or, there's stores that take things like that now on consignment. And
Sure.
that could be something you just did on your free time. But there are many other skills that moms have, even accounting,
Yeah.
and you could do some accounting and then you can get a certificate, like a 2-year certificate in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, but maybe you could.
I couldn't.
I could. But what I guess I'm getting at is that, whatever it is you love, look into ways that you can make money doing it. In fact, nowadays, all you do is get on the computer and say, how can I get a job doing da 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 da? And you'll get
Yep. Uh, you get
artificial
lots of options.
intelligence will tell you what you can do. Yeah. But honestly, I do believe that most of the time there is a way that you can use what you love
Mm-hmm.
to help you make a living. But sometimes that just has to be a hobby. Sometimes you work at a job and you just get paid, and then
Mm-hmm.
you do the other thing on the side. I was in the arts forever. I was in minor in art, theater, and all of that. And that's my love and all. But I never made money doing that very well. My dad was real concerned about that. That's why I became a teacher.
That's why he made you be a teacher.
Yeah. You know, he
Oh,
wanted me to be self-sufficient. And it was a good thing.
yeah.
When I divorced, it was a really good thing. So sometimes you do have to do the job. But I do think that it's great to have a passion about something and be able to turn that. And we have many stories. You've seen them
Mhm.
of women, people who baked cookies and became famous for the
Sure.
cookie, you know, those kind of stories. But remember, those are few and far between.
Yeah.
You can do some things. Maybe you love to do hair. Maybe you love to do makeup. There are jobs for that, and I know they're pretty good jobs.
Mhm.
Women who actually are support themselves pretty well just doing hair.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've always been a little surprised by that, but people are always going to have to go get their hair done,
You
right?
always need a haircut or a hairstyle or something. Yeah. I think too, if you like to do things that people are going to need, that's even better.
Yes.
You talked about your first book was called Baby Steps. I love that, taking those little baby steps to get where you want to go, because I think sometimes we see the big picture of other people's success and then we think, "Oh, I got to get there." And it's so big, but we just breaking it down into those little steps help us get there.
Right. Now that was an article in a
An
magazine,
article. Okay.
but that was a long time ago.
Hmm.
And I was really excited to get it published because that helped me get other things published.
Sure.
But since then, I have been very big about one step at a time, which is what I did when I went back to college. I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't try to eat the whole enchilada. Just took once. I said, well, if I'm going to go, I have to take the GRE. That's a graduate records exam that you have to take to get into masters.
Yeah.
I hadn't taken a test like that in 18 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was kind of daunting. Anyway, I took it. I did
Yeah.
pretty well, but I had like 5 points to get to the where I could be automatically admitted.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, some people would say it's not meant to be, and I don't do that. I don't do that. I thought, you know what? There is another step I can take. I can go back to the college. I can interview with them, and sure enough, he just rubber stamped it. You're in.
Nice.
I just had to take the step. You
Isn't
see?
that funny? Because if you would have just gone, oh, well,
Yeah, yeah.
y-
And so I got in. But then I had to find a place to live. I had to find a place for my children to stay during the summer. And
oh,
each
wow.
one was a step,
Yeah.
and each one opened up. But it took a lot of faith to say, okay, if I'm supposed to do this, this is going to, instead of just pushing, 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 I did everything I should do. My
Mm-hmm.
friend worked at UT in Austin. Now, remember, Austin's like 5 hours away from here.
Uh,
It took somebody helping me find a place to live with 3 kids just for the
wow.
school. And those in Austin, it isn't in those days, it wasn't easy to do that. And
Yeah.
I was way too late to get into family housing with the university. So I asked her to see if she could find something. Well, I only had a couple of days left before all my deposits were going to just evaporate.
Mm-hmm.
So she calls me and she says, I found you an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And a girl was going to be away for the summer and needed to rent her place, furnished.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect, but that's not all that was perfect. I had to have a place for my kids to stay, and everybody that the good places were blocked in. People kept them through the summer, even if they weren't going to be there.
Ah.
Everybody said you're not likely to find a place for 3 children.
Oh.
But the department at UT that was for continuing older students had
Older.
a list of 100 daycares they gave me, a typewritten list. Okay. I
Oh
started
my gosh.
looking at that list and it had everything on it from places you wouldn't take your dog to fancy, fancy, expensive places. And if you look at a map of Austin, right now it is just spread out all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started looking at those and I thought this was really hard. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one place downtown and it was a Lutheran church. And I thought, downtown, that's an odd place for a daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out they had won a national award for their new playground under these big trees right down in the center of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this will be a long shot. So I went in and I visited with this extremely elderly lady who took me around to the kitchen and showed me the whole facilities and everything. And I thought, this is kind of odd. I don't think they're going to have any openings.
Yeah.
He said, can I enroll your children? I said, I have 3 children. He said, yes, I know. And they took all 3 of my children.
Oh my gosh.
Now, here's the clincher to the story. Imagine the layout of 400 acres of Austin, the University of Texas, this shuttle bus running all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
That shuttle bus, ironically, stopped half a block from the apartment I was going to be in.
Oh
And
my
then,
gosh.
oh no, then the next stop was at the very corner of the church where the kids were going to stay. And then
Wow.
when I come out after letting them off, there were 2 buses within 10 minutes. And the final stop was in front of the building where all of my classes were.
Hello.
Yeah. You think I could have orchestrated that? No.
Nope.
But I
Nope.
did it only, I didn't do the whole thing in once. I did it one little step and another little step and another little step. And 3 summers later, I graduated.
Wow. Wow. And how old were your kids then?
Oh, goodness. 6, 9, 10.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had 3 kids in 3 years.
Oh goodness.
It's
Yep.
not real good for a marriage. But I did it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is amazing and good for you. And oh my goodness. So you have a book called Living, Learning, and Loving. And is that out now or is it coming out?
It's the first version's out, but this one is up pre-order on Barnes and Noble. And I hope some people do pre-order. It helps a lot. The level it comes up on Barnes and Noble, but it will be out for sure September the 9th, I think.
Okay. And why did you want to write a book?
What I did was I was writing articles and stories for years.
Mhm.
And ultimately, I thought I compiled all of that into a book. And so there are 12 chapters, and each chapter includes a story. Each chapter includes a particular topic that I feel like is something that single moms need, and I needed when I was single, but didn't, never necessarily get it. And so I compiled them with the help of an editor and put it together into a book. And it's self-published back in 2015. Then I revised it and upgraded it. And
Okay.
so it's picked up by a publisher.
Okay. And so people can get that online or they can pre-order it now and get it. Yeah. What kind of advice would you give a single mom who might be listening out there right now? What would be like a number one thing you would tell them?
Have a goal, even if that goal is just a week away. Have a goal to be working towards and make it a reasonable, attainable goal,
Mhm.
not some outlandish thing that you know you can't do, you know. But have a goal and sit down and write these things down. They say the people who write them down are much more likely to achieve them.
Mhm.
So write down what you want to be happening next year. Maybe write them down for your children, what you would like for that child next year. I worked in special ed for many years, and the women and the mothers who had children with special needs that had an attitude of achievement, a positive attitude, oh my goodness, their children did so well. Even children who were totally blind did well with parents that had that attitude. And so that's one of the first things I say is have a goal, be gentle with yourself.
Mhm.
Don't be too hard on yourself either. I mean, you can, take a break once in a while, but uh, don't talk to yourself negatively.
Mm. Mhm.
We all tend to want to do that. It's the way our brains want to work.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Spend some time, even 10 minutes a day, meditating on something positive.
When I talk to women, sometimes they'll say something and kind of blow it off, but it's something that they accomplished. I had a woman who she was divorced and she said, well, my husband and I at the time built this business and we have kids and yeah, whatever. And I said, oh, wait a minute. Let's go back here a second. You raised kids. You did these things. I think sometimes we forget as women that the things that we do are important and we have accomplished a lot.
Mm,
And single moms, especially, double. I mean,
yeah.
like crazy. So, single moms listening out there, kudos to you. I really admire women like you too that I mean going back to school of any level and then adding kids and no partner to help you,
Yeah.
that should be celebrated no matter what. So, yeah. And you did eventually get remarried.
Yeah, I did.
How, like, look at her smile. I love that. Were 16 years you were a single mom and then you have someone to come beside you again. How was that transition? That always fascinates me.
Oh, it was huge. The man that I married, he is an interesting fellow. He is a dentist. He is still practicing even at the age of 80. He
Wow.
is excellent at what he does, and he's also very generous. He has been helpful to my children.
Mhm.
We went on a trip to Russia where my daughter, who couldn't have children, found a baby. That story and a couple of others can be downloaded on my website for free.
Okay. Okay.
But just anybody interested, go to the homepage, scroll down to the bottom. I think there's 3 or 4 stories that have been published that are dear to my heart.
Okay.
They that story's there, but yes, the marriage, didn't happen necessarily easily at first, but it's a good thing. We were friends before we were
Uh,
married, and I had to go through some heartaches before that, but
yeah.
he's a good guy. Good
That's
guy.
awesome. That's wonderful. So tell us the name of your website so people can go to it and we'll put that in the show notes too.
Gail, Gail, Showalter, SHOWALTER.com.
Awesome. She's got a lot of good stuff on there. I was checking it out today. Gail, this has been so wonderful. I feel like I could just curl up with a cup of coffee and just keep talking with you, but we have to let you go at some point here. Is there any one last little bit of information or maybe something we didn't get to cover before we say goodbye?
Just love yourself, you know, take care of yourself. Don't let the world and your responsibilities weigh too heavily on you. I have a little thing on my desk here that says, angels fly because they take themselves lightly.
Oh, I love that. That's my new favorite saying.
Isn't that neat?
That is really neat. They take themselves lightly. Oh my goodness. I'm writing that down. Well, thank you so much, Gail. I hope that we will get to chat again. You have a wonderful day and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave me a review. Or, even better, send a link to your friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.